Welcome to the Portfolio Advanced Level Design. I'm here on our project page that lists out all the different tutorials to complete this project. Before we get started, I want to show you some features about this design in which you will be working on for this piece. So right up here in the top where it says Portfolio Design Advanced Level, a couple things that this design is going to do. We're going to use a CSS grid layout. We're going to have a sticky header that shrinks when the user scrolls. And we're going to use a hamburger style navigation menu that will essentially overlay on the page when it is clicked and then disappear when it's clicked away from the menu. The other thing that we're going to also style is our images that will size according to the container and the screen dimensions that they are housed in. The really cool thing about this design is that this design is what's called a responsive website. So when you look at this site in a phone, it'll change depending on that screen size. And when you look at it in a desktop, it will also look differently. So this is what you would see in most modern day websites nowadays. It's a little more involved in terms of making that happen. But that's why we're doing an advanced level. So I'm going to click on this. This is the completed design here. I'm going to open this up in a new tab and pull this open and just kind of show you what we're looking at. So when you scroll down, that's that feature I was just talking about, is the header shrinks and it is sticky, so it stays there at the top. Over here in the right-hand corner, this is what we're calling the hamburger menu. And the reason why it's called a hamburger menu is because it looks kind of like a hamburger. And you click on that, and then there's our nav menu. So you can see that when you click on, say, a page like resume, it goes to that, and then it clicks off. So if we click on this again and we don't want to click any of those links, we can click off of that and it disappears. And then, like always, our logo here goes back to our home page. Okay. We are going to be working, I'm going to be showing you this design in Chrome. When we preview the site, I'm going to be using Chrome to preview it. And the reason for that is because Chrome has a really powerful developer tool that makes it easy to see your site in different screen dimensions. So when we begin that, you're going to go up to View in Chrome, and you're going to select Developer and Developer Tools. And what that's going to do is it's going to show you over here on the right-hand side, it's going to show you the DOM. And the other powerful thing about this piece is up here, you'll see that right now, this is showing in a Galaxy S5 screen. So if you click on this, we can actually add different types of screens and different phones and things like that. We'll primarily be working with the Galaxy S5 because that is the smallest screen dimension in this list. I think it's about 350 pixels wide. And then we'll be working in primarily the laptop HIDPI screen size. So when you click on that, it's going to show you what a laptop might look like. Now on my computer, I have a really large screen here and with really high resolution. I'm working on my Mac and it's a 27-inch screen. So I can really make my web pages really large. In the laptop view here, you're going to see that the design fills the entire screen like this. So the other feature of our website for this design is that when you get larger, and I'm going to have to exit out of the developer mode here. When you exit out, the other feature of our piece is that it's going to have a max width of 1920 pixels. And so when it hits that max width, what the design is going to do is it's essentially going to center that page in our web browser. And to me, that's a stylistic decision. I would prefer to see, it actually makes it a little bit easier to also control our design. When you're thinking about, say, if someone wants to throw up your website onto a really large screen, like a big screen TV, if we don't limit our max width to our design, what's going to happen is images are going to get really large and distort even more. And the image I have right here that you're looking at gets a little pixelated once we get to this size. and that's because I didn't use a large enough picture to fit that dimension, and so it's pixelating as it gets larger. So one of the things that you'll need to be mindful of is when you create graphics for your website, make sure that you're designing really large graphics so that when they scale and they scale up, they're clear and crisp in large formats like this. I didn't bother to do that because you'll notice that in my design here, this is similar to the same design from last year, only it's just a little different. So I use the same graphics as the intermediate design of our portfolio. So just be mindful of that. But the reason why I like for style purposes, I want our page to be centered, and then that way I can also control the look of it on really large screens. Now it's more than just adding a max width to our design. It actually means nesting a div tag within a div tag to make that happen. But you'll see that when we get into it. So I'm going to go back to real quick go back to our developer screen. And so what I want to show you is this is what it means by responsive design. So here you'll see we're in that laptop mode. And when you scroll down, you'll see that we have our 3 columns down here at the bottom and our current success stories. And down in our footer, we have kind of a 2-column design with our social media icons on the right and our copyright on the left. And for the most part, for some of our pages here, we have some of those same similar elements with the 3-column layout, but that'll change when we switch to a smaller screen. And the reason why we don't want to use a 3-column layout on a phone screen, on a 350 pixel wide screen, is because these end up becoming really small and really hard for your user to read and to also click on and to interact with. So it's really important that we change that. So what we'll do is from a 3-column, you'll end up with a 3-column design in a phone design on, like, say, Galaxy S5. When you scroll down, everything shrinks to fit into that column, and this is what we call a tube. This, for most phones, when you design for a phone, you're designing for a tube layout, meaning that it's just one column, and it feels like a tube because everything gets smushed into one area, and you don't have any like 3-column or 2-column layouts. The only thing that will stay the same is our navigation header. We'll have our 2-column layout there because we want our logo to appear on the top and the left-hand side, and then our nav on the right. But when we get down here to the bottom, you're going to see that those 3 columns that were on the bottom on the laptop mode are now in the tube, and they just kind of scroll down. Those images resize, and it makes it a lot easier for our users to interact with, read, and click. You'll also notice that in our footer changes its order a little bit. The social media icons end up on top, and then our copyright contact information ends up below those icons. So we're going to be using the Google Chrome developer tool quite a bit to look at and preview our site. So next on our list, I'm going to click back over here. The first thing we need to do is we need to create, and you're going to see in our tutorial layout here, these are built in sections. So in the first part, we have our get started piece, and we're going to do one of these here in just a minute. We'll start with file management, but it's broken down into sections, so it makes it easier and manageable for you to build out your portfolio. And each one of these is a YouTube video, with the exception of 1-2. So 1-2 here has a page that will take you through the process of defining your site so that we can put your portfolios over to the server. And this will be something that you'll do right away. And then at the end, when you're finished with your portfolio, this will be how you push it over to our web server and how we'll get it onto our site. So if you click on over here, like class of 2019, somebody from last year, Andrew Croft still hasn't fixed his, neither has Sebastian, fixed their favicon. But if you click on one of these links here, you're going to see your design from last year. Okay, so we're gonna do a lot better this year. We're gonna get rid of this design, and yeah. So okay, so I'm gonna click that out. Gonna go back to our instructions here. Okay, we're gonna work on file management first. I'm not even gonna click on this right now. I'm gonna go ahead and start this. So I'm gonna minimize here, and I'll talk about Dreamweaver here in just a second. And you're going to see my desktop as being the Mac version. You're going to create your portfolio folder in your U drive. So please don't forget that. Do not follow exactly what I'm going to do. Pretend that I have a U drive and I am making that folder right now in your U drive. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click. I'm going to click New Folder. And I'm going to name this Portfolio. And I would probably give this a date, like Portfolio 2019. Notice that I used a dash in there because we don't want spaces in our folder. This is just going to be kind of a container folder. This helps with putting over to our server because you'll have multiple files putting stuff over. And the way it gets pushed over, if we don't nest our folders here, it's not going to put over correctly. So please follow this to the letter. So we have Portfolio 2019. I'm going to open that up, and inside this folder we're going to create a new folder, and here's where you're going to name this folder exactly the same way as you named it last year if you are a second year. If you are a first year, follow these instructions to the letter as well, because the next year you will want to name it the same way because it'll make it a lot easier for you to update your portfolio that you created last year. So in this case it's going to be sinks underscore my name underscore and then portfolio. Okay, and then inside of this folder I'm going to make a few more folders, and the first one I'm going to make is a CSS folder, and I'm going to start that with an underscore so that way when it alphabetizes my folders in my system here, the CSS folder appears on top. We can also do the same for a JavaScript folder, although in this case we won't be needing a JavaScript folder for our design. Everything will be housed within our HTML pages. But just in case, I'm going to make that folder. And then next, new folder, and then we're going to do documents, and I'm not going to capitalize anything just yet. And then last but not least, we need to make an images folder. Okay, so that's it in terms of our file management. And I'm going to pop over real quick to Dreamweaver, and I'm just going to reiterate because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to skip. I'm going to skip in my tutorial. I'm going to skip 1-2 for right now. Like you'll be able to click on this and do this part, but I'm going to do part of 1-2 in this tutorial, and you might see a repeat here of 1-2. But I'm just going to, from this movie. This is an older video from last year or the year before. I'm going to skip from 1-1 to 2-1 right after this video. Okay, so I'm going to do part of that right now, so that way we can get started and set ourselves up for 2-1. Before we do that, also I want to mention that I am using Adobe Dreamweaver, and this is because it's part of our suite and it's something that we've been using for a long time. The other part about Dreamweaver that I really like is that we can define a site, and it helps with managing our files, and it's also makes it easier for putting our site or portfolios over to the web server. Now, if you'd like to use a program like Brackets, which I totally endorse, and you can download for free and work on your portfolio from home, you can do so. You can use whatever coding platform that you want for HTML, CSS, and it'll work just fine because everything that we're doing for our portfolio is code based. So it'll work in whatever coding platform that you want to build your portfolio in. Okay. Now here's the deal. If for some reason you run into problems, you're going to have to troubleshoot on your own. It is a different format, and the file management system does work a little bit differently. But I think we had success with kids using it in the past, and I think it's a great platform. But all of our tutorials will be done in Dreamweaver. Before we get started, the first thing I'm going to do is define the site. So I'm going to go up to Site, new site. And here, this is where I'm going to name our portfolio. I'm going to go ahead and call this Advanced Design Port. And I'm just going to abbreviate that and select the local site folder. That's going to go to our desktop. That will go to your U drive. When you navigate to this will go to your U drive. And then I'm going to look for that Portfolio 2019 folder. And I'm actually going to go one more deep, and I'm going to select that last. Actually, I take that back. I'm going to just select Portfolio 2019. Don't want to do that. It'll mess it up when we try to put the server over. So Portfolio 2019, that's where we're going to choose that. And here's where I'm going to skip. You guys will need to go on to the 1-2 tutorial to set up the server, the remote server, to put your portfolio over. I'm going to skip this step in this tutorial. So go ahead and hit save. If you want to go on to the advanced settings and select like a default images folder or something like that, you can, but not totally necessary in this case. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit save, and my site will pop up right over in here. So in our next tutorial, we will add or create our first page. We will create our CSS style sheet and link those up, and then set up some basic page properties in the following tutorial after.